Can you believe it, folks? There are only 3 more of these left here on YouTube. We are winding down on the Effluvium series here on YouTube, as it will be migrating to Substack as of this summer. Effluvium will be the podcast that will be on my Substack, so we only have 3 more, and this episode is one of great distinction. And I will see if those who are currently tuned in can guess what that distinction is. So it's going to be pretty easy at this point. But who, out of all of my guests, have appeared in all 3 seasons of Effluvium? Let's see who can guess. Nathaniel, great to have you here. Thank you very much. It warms the cockles of my heart. Pat Lester, lovely to see you as well. And also great to see you, Ricardo Neves. We currently have 17 people tuned in. The question is, what guest, that is, has appeared in all 3 seasons? The shambolic panel version of Effluvium, which was the first season. The second season, which featured a lot of some return guests, not many, but this is one of them, but a lot of writers and authors and perfumers was the second season. And then the third season, which is the one-on-one season. Who is it? Who appeared in all 3 seasons? Let's see who gets the answer correct. We are sentient. Lovely to have you here as our resident wrench, our resident, as opposed to resident wench, our resident wrench, our moderator for Effluvium here. And Billy. Billy has the answer correct. It is none other than Varanis Ridari, a.k.a. thescenteddevil, a.k.a. our good friend Derek, who is waiting backstage. He is the only guest who has appeared in all 3 YouTube seasons of Effluvium. And he is with us this time around. This is his 3rd time. Philly, lovely to see you. Sent to the day habit rouge or the toilette. And he says hi to all of you as he waits in the wings in the green room. Defo wench was wenching hard this afternoon. Very well then. 19 people tuned in. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to hit the like. We're going to do a like count. We are currently at 10. Let's try to aim for 20. And Derek says, I take the broken wings. I learn to fly again. Learn to live. So, wait a second. Take these broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to live so free. Take these broken wings. Yes, stanking it up with Chanel No. 5 EDC. My scent of the evening, it is evening here in Massachusetts. Don't you love it when some of these older fragrances, they have this white sleeve to really protect things? We have here the Parfum from Laura Cesaro. We'll open this up, and here is the Parfum. This is a Jean Martel composition. He also composed Jules by Dior. And the other one that I know he did another pretty well-known one. This is the Parfum by Laura Cesaro from 1975. Just completed a review posted on the BN just a few moments ago, actually, before I signed on. So that is my scent of the evening. Great to see you, Manginosis. So lovely to see you. Great to see you too as well, JD, Devin Aramis. We love, right? We love Nathaniel. Lovely Galon Vetiver. Varanis is wearing a circa mid-century bottle of Old Spice, as he wanted to do the ultimate slummet. I'm trying to read that grammatically. I wanted to ultimate slum it for my last stream. Last stream, you got to tell last live stream. Well, last live stream with us, unless you're going to join me on Substack, which I'm sure people would love you to do. Teach a college course on the art of perfumery. Do we have the credentials? Avon was too fancy, had to step it down to OS. And lovely to have you here, Professor Value. A big hello to the powerhouses on this episode. Scent of the day, Bellamy from Hermes. And that's what he meant. Don't know how to stack my subs. I can barely eat one. Subs. I like a good Italian cold cut once in a while. So, as I was mentioning earlier, I will be moving to Substack for all podcast format content and longer form written content. It will be bigger, bolder, smoother than what I've done here on YouTube. YouTube is going to be limited to periodic videos. I'm going to keep a presence here because I don't want to disconnect from people who my main source of connection and engagement, as it were, is YouTube. So I'll still be here. I'll be doing this. All of these live streams will effectively be replaced by videos about once a month, 2 if I'm really ambitious, but can't guarantee anything. Yes, the drink of the evening is Juice Daddy. I've written a letter to Daddy. Imperial Juicy New England IPA, and of course it's a 9.9 ABV because that's how I roll when I do a live stream, because I like to get a little sloppy about an hour in, right? All right, without further ado, let's bring in our friend Derek, aka Varanis Ridari, aka the Scented Devil. You are live, my friend. Wave to the audience. We have 19 people tuned in. They're all here for you, my friend. All here for you. And we have 11 likes at the moment. We have 19 people tuned in. That means approximately 8 people who are tuned in have not liked the stream. So if you haven't done so, please do so. Just got code red is what you're... Now I'm going to share your comments while you're here. Might as well just let your comments speak for you. Let's do a little zoom in on that. Let's see. What is that libation? God, look at that.
Red shirt, red beverage, red devil. I'm just red everywhere.
Red skies at night. Oh,
red in every way that matters.
Oh. Very nice beverage.
Got my Goose Pub shirt on. Represent the Goose Pub.
Forgo Perfumes. Devin smells like Descendre to me. Do you still like that one? I remember you got sent a bottle. Who, me or Derek?
Do you what?
Did you get sent a bottle of Descendre?
Me?
Was it me? All right, moving forward. Professor Value. Craft IPA fans, yes. The Indian Pale Ale. And this is Derek's scent of the evening.
Yeah, there it is.
Genuflect for the man. He knows his stuff. And look at that text in the back. Look at that kerning. Or is that kerning or is that spacing? I don't know. All I can say is that's very 60s looking, the way that that's spaced. But what would be the approximate date of this bottle? Like what time period?
It's hard to say, but my very quick and dirty research tells me that they produced this particular bottle from the 50s until right up to about probably the early 70s before they began to change the graphics. So this was just kind of the general mid-century bottle, I guess. And it's clipped in New Jersey, and that's doesn't have any of the other international text on it yet. So this was strictly a US bottle, and it doesn't have the star. That's important because later bottles had a star on them, like the stuff from the late 70s, 80s. The stopper had a star on it. So this is definitely older than that. So I think it's a 20-year range. It's really hard to get. I know the batch code people like to know the exact hour of the day and the weather outside, whether the guy bottling it was drunk or not, and all this real super pedantic details, but I can't really drill it down further than that 20-year gap of like 50s to like I said, late 60s, early 70s. This is as close as I can get it, but It's
And how do you feel? How do you feel wearing Old Spice? Does it bring out your virility, your masculine wiles, whatever you want to call it? Does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like a real man? You know what's so funny about Old Spice is for all of the associations, it used to be a woman's fragrance. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, early American Old Spice. Yeah. So I'm trying to find. Here we go. So I am literally right next to my perfume collection, so I can just grab stuff.
Convenient place.
Yeah. Trying to find my dad's bottle. The reason why I bought the one I have now, actually. Yep, here it is. Okay. So this is my father's bottle, or the last bottle he owned before he passed in 2008. He gave it to me a few years before that. So the story was he liked the old-fashioned splashes better, but he couldn't find it. And when he bought this one, I had an older splash bottle. That was the clone, not aftershave. And he saw that and he was like, oh, man, I like that better. I don't like he just didn't like. He was the opposite of most people now prefer sprays, but he was just it's what he liked to do. So I said, tell you what, you give me your new one and I'll give you my basically unused at the time, because it wasn't super old, but I guess it was just old enough to be older than this one. So I gave it to him and he gave me this one. And then unfortunately he passed away a couple years later. And then I'm like, well, now I can't ever touch this one. So I've had this one since then. And I just finally decided, hey, I want to wear Old Spice again. So let's buy one I can actually use. So I said, well, why not just go older anyway? Get one from that. Why not get one from that time period that most of our dads and granddads would have worn Old Spice anyway? So I, like I said, the little quick and dirty research, and I discovered that this was basically that 50s, 60s, like I said, up until about early 70s, and they started changing graphics around. But
yeah,
this was that post-war, mid-century period, Old Spice.
The milk glass, yes.
Yeah. Older ones than this, like we're talking 30s, like when it first came out, the men's bottles were just all monochrome. So this would not be red. This would just be black, like the boat. And you have a little like curvy thing underneath the boat that says whatever Old Spice on it.
Right.
Women's one, well, I'm going to say women's one was the early American Old Spice, but it was the same juice in both bottles.
Yeah.
And then after this, in the 70s, when they introduced all of the lime and the burley and the musk and all the other ones, right?
Right.
Then they began to finagle with the graphics to separate them all from each other. So those all look different. And they look different from this.
My dad had a bottle of the burley.
Yeah, so
that. Burley as in burley tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the first discussion we should have is on adjectives that we use to describe scents that might smell animalic.
Oh, you're referencing a Base Notes thread, aren't you?
Can we?
I don't care. Grant doesn't care. I mean, I talk to Grant all the time on Telegram anyway. He doesn't care.
So there was a discussion on describing scents like Kuros, right? Or, animalic, scents that are quote unquote dirtier. And a couple of the adjectives suggested were unsanitary and unhygienic. And it brings to the question connotation versus denotation. And I think that there are some words to describe something that is dirty, maybe more suitable when describing a dirtier smelling fragrance than others. Mm-hmm. And there are certain words that have strong connotations that you just can't divorce from those connotations. And I was just amused by that because I can't hear the words unsanitary or unhygienic without feeling repulsed. So it's if I wanted to describe something that does have like a skanky, raunchy, dirty kind of animalic. You know, raunchy is already pushing it depending upon who you speak with. But to use words like unsanitary and unhygienic, we tend to think of things that we wouldn't want to smell like at all. Like, what is your take on that? What does unsanitary and unhygienic, what do you recall when you hear those adjectives?
I would never use those words. I think that's about as blunt as I can be with that. I would never use those words to describe animalic smell. I would probably get into more of the randy, raunchy, horny, that side of it.
Yeah.
But even then, that's still a how do I put this into words? Because I'm not the big SAT words guy like you.
I'm the poet laureate here.
Denotation versus connotation and all this, like, you're going to be tested on this later kind of stuff. And I'm just kind of going like, but it's all right. I'm not trying to say that, I'm just picking on you, but
as you should.
Yeah. So, my Baltimore is showing here. Sorry.
I come from the Boston area. We can match wits on that.
You still had better schools than we did, though. Bottom line.
What's that?
You still had better schools than we did. Bottom line.
We do have better schools. Yeah. But I didn't go to no charter school. I didn't go to a private school. I mean, public schools, man, they did me well back in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say, but not really doing a good job of saying, is that the whole concept of sexy when it comes to animal smells is a very touchy subject, because the last few generations have been so divorced from those smells being appealing because of all the sanitization of fragrance, and everything is white musks and everything is clean and everything is soap and everything is aquatic and all of that. That you literally have people nowadays that think gourmands are very sexy because that's what their mind and other areas attach sexy to: the caramel, to the chocolate, to the whole edible thing. And so you've got people who literally just get verklempt, right, over the smell of the one.
They get hot.
When you and me go sugar cookies, we smell that, we go sugar cookies. But they're like, oh, that gets me so, verklempt. When they smell something like the one or any of the stronger with you fragrances, right? That's their idea of sexy. And that's really where their brain goes. That's their that's like their limbic reaction to that smell. But then you and me don't.
Releases the oxytocin, if you will.
Yeah, there you go. And then if you took that person, and it's perfectly valid, I'm not saying that they're wrong, but if you take that person and then you let them smell Shocking or Bala Versailles or one of those, and they would literally be shocked. It would actually be shocking to them because they're like that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get the sexy. They wouldn't get the allure because they were not really, they didn't come up in that time where that people wanted a little bit of danger. They wanted a little bit of filth, right? But not in, like I said, unsanitary. You almost have to acquire that taste nowadays, like beer drinkers. You have to acquire, you don't just have that taste anymore because of our sanitization, because of how we've completely,
And that's been about 30 years in the making. And it's really just gotten to be more and more like that in the 21st century. Either things that do smell very antiseptic, sanitary, if you will, or edible, which to me is not necessarily all that sexy. Maybe certain things that are edible in a fragrance can smell sexy when they smell sexy. Just the word sexy cracks me up. But they can smell sensual when juxtaposed with other things. Think of the Amber Accord. Vanilla on its own could be considered an edible smell, but it is paired with something that is a lot more sensual, like labdanum, and something that is vanillic in nature, but does not smell edible, like benzoin. And the trio, when they come together, it ends up being much more sensual. Even though
Yeah.
there is a sweetness, it is a sensual sweetness. And I think the problem is when you come across fragrances that are very heavy in the maltol or ethyl maltol, it takes away from that that sort of push and pull, that dynamic, that contrast, because it's
Yeah.
just full on edible smelling. You lose that yin and yang, and it just isn't there. But getting back to I think the problem that I have with unsanitary and unhygienic as positive words to describe a fragrance that you like is that you may not necessarily be it may not necessarily be selling the fragrance the way that you want it to, because
No.
most people, including myself, and I love animalic fragrances, when you hear the word unsanitary, you think of sewage, you think of people who have a lot of issues with cleaning themselves, which is not really the intent of animalics and fragrance. It's not supposed to smell like you don't bathe. It means that it recalls a time where bathing wasn't like considered a sacrament, that bathing was something you did not necessarily every day, but maybe once a week, which is not necessarily unsanitary. So when I hear unsanitary, it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like something I want to avoid. And granted, there are some fragrances I've smelled where I have described them as unsanitary because the animalics are not delivering that sensuousness. They're delivering like, this is a gross kind of smell. Same thing with unhygienic. Unhygienic, it's like I said on the base notes forum, it's kind of like somebody who, they go to the bathroom and they do number 2 and they don't wash their hands. That to me is unhygienic. No, I wouldn't want to call it
right? Scatological.
But
yeah.
Be that as it may, you and I know that there are some people who actually really enjoy things that are really, really poopy, like way more poopy than we had ever really seen in classical perfumery. It's like they're taking something that was meant to be sort of this, what's the word I'm trying to find? It's supposed to be that little bit of magic and a little bit of sort of like that organic kind of feel to something that would be otherwise not there. And they take those materials like civets and Africa stone or castoreum, and then they overdose it, so it's way more than what was ever really possibly ever considered in perfume, and then they fetishize that.
Like I mean, I'm sure you don't care, but some people don't like when you throw brands under the bus, especially if they're niche brands with big cult followings. But like some of the Orige Lador stuff, man, and I'm not trying to talk too much dirt about perfuming ability, but goodness gracious, some of the ones I've been given samples of, like just different ones. I'm not going to name a specific one, and people were like, yeah, these are so animalic. This is peak perfumery. This is so high art. This is so not for the uninitiated.
Yeah.
And then I smell it and I'm like, man, this is just straight up piss.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think this is necessarily throwing them under the bus. I think that it's just a matter of opinion and taste. And we're all adults. It's not my taste. I love Animalics. Me too. I think it's just a matter of all being adults and understanding that everybody has different tastes and different opinions. Yeah. And I'm much more of sort of like, I like my fragrances to be, for the most part, grounded in some aspect of classical perfumery, even if it's just in the very, very middle nucleus of a fragrance.
Yeah.
So when something goes so far out of bounds like that, it doesn't register well with me. And like I smell it and it's like, well, sure, there's plenty of this exotic stuff in this fragrance, and it's like a lot of rare materials, and it's also a lot of animalic materials, but it doesn't, to my nose, I'm not saying this is objective fact.
No,
that's my disclaimer. Here. That's my disclaimer. It's not objective fact. You heard it here. You can quote me on that. It's not but my perception of it is it's just not a cohesive perfume per se. It doesn't resonate with me. I smell them and it smells more like, and once again, I'm trying to say this in a diplomatic way, it is more about the materials than the final product. It's more about like highlighting what materials are used rather than how they're used, and what is the end product, and what is the skill and expertise behind taking these materials and creating something that is grounded somewhere in the several hundred year history of classical perfumery, and I just don't smell that. So for me, because that's my bias, that's my personal taste, I want at least some of that. It just doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't smell good, and it just seems like to me those animalics are not being used in a way that really honors them and also makes sense. But that's just my opinion. It's not. I'm not saying that it's bad perfumery. I'm not about throwing around things like, oh, it's shit, it's bad perfumery. Like, there's plenty of other people around to do that, especially people who knock on modern perfumery, and there's plenty of wonderful modern perfumery. So
the most constructive criticism I have when I come across fragrances like that, and it's just to be fair, it is not just Arige Lador. I smelled other indie brands too, like House of Matriarch, like Bortnikov. There's a handful of them, what I call the usual suspects. They all play with naturals. They all play with really old, rare materials that they found in a cupboard somewhere in some cabin in the woods, set up for a horror movie there. But I'm like, what they end up making is a good base for another perfume. So when I smell the highly concentrated civet, the highly concentrated castoreum, the no holds barred, full Hindi oud, full skankadank, and there's like nothing else going on. There's just that.
Right. There's no contrast after a while. It's sort of like everything. It's kind of like if you have like an orchestra and you have nothing but like woodwinds, or nothing but like timpani. And
it's just timpani and the big stand-up, the big saxophone that's so big the guy has to stand up and it's like on a pedestal. There's
like a name for that one. Yeah, it's like a double bass sax. Yeah.
Yeah, some boom, 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 boom. So when I smell those perfumes, I think, gosh, this is just so rancid. But, and this is the constructive part, you could take this as it is, as it's been completed, and just put more materials on top of it, put more florals on it, put more citruses on top of it, put more spices. You could literally build it into a finished perfume. So you've just basically done Delaire's work for them at that point. Harman and Reimer's work for them. You've just made a base, all natural, granted. You've taken these vintage, old, crazy animalic materials, and you just made a base that you could then sell as a base. And someone could build a chypre out of it. Someone could build an Oriental out of it, and then that would be great at that point.
And you would take that base and you would use a small percentage of that base in the whole product, and it's a very different effect. But if you have that base undiluted, not as a fraction but as a whole, it doesn't translate the same way. And I would even argue that some of them do smell unhygienic and do smell unsanitary because they're in overdrive. Right. I want to get back to the chat here. I'm sorry about that. I was joking around. I did in fact get a bottle from Eugene. I still do appreciate it. Sorry about that. I thought it was, I thought my sarcasm was but yes, I did. Yes. I still think I'm a bigger fan of Devon, the original Devon, or Alliage, which was sort of the sibling to Devon, both composed by Bernard Chant. But I think it's a very solid work from Antoine Lee. So sorry about that. Forgo Perfumes.
Here's that Devon.
There we go. Well, Devon, do your homework. It sounded like I was about to reprimand. I'm a parent reprimanding Devon. Devon? Nikki B, great to see you. Animalic smells originate from the taint region. It's science. Yeah, we love our science here. Tainted love. And Regis Moncton, hello today. I enjoyed wearing Prada Marion Bad. Thanks for the recommendation. Do you consider that one to be animalic at all? Very mildly so. Let's put both of us here. We're just very mildly so. I don't think that's a very heavy animalic, but there's a little sort of outline of the animalic in the dry down. It's definitely a sensuous fragrance. It's beautiful. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. It always humbles me to know that I'm that kind of influencer, not the other. Not to knock influencers. I think with that we've beaten a dead horse with that subject. How bad is the Marion? Oh, how bad is it?
The Marion Bad.
Wouldn't you like to know how bad it is? Forgo Perfumes. Devon is nicer. Yeah. I think it's nice. I think that, that my only, at the time, like I felt like it was like a really good release for the year, but, looking at, that style as a whole, I think that the top notes are a little tough for me, and they kind of settle into something that's a more comfortable wear. Whereas Devon is just like beautiful from the moment that you spray it on its skin. Yeah. So, you did a video recently on the state of FragCom, the fragrance community. Where do you think things are going right now? What do you think of people like me moving to Substack instead of doing TikTok?
Well, I try to be very neutral with that video. But the funny thing about that video was when I posted that video, I schedule my videos, and some malfunction happened with the scheduling in the YouTube Studio app, and all of the videos for like 2 weeks worth of content got dumped at one time as just a public, all of it came out. So I had to hurry up and go back and reschedule everything again. So to hide the stuff, because people were trying to comment on all these videos that were all out. So the algorithm basically crapped itself, and that video didn't get seen by anybody. So even when it did finally roll out, people just kind of skipped over to the next one because the algorithm didn't let anyone know that it was released. So not a lot of people actually saw that video. I think you watched a little bit of it. Thankfully, somebody saw it. But
I watched it, yeah.
It was one of those ones I made while I was just sitting at work, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about perfume. I don't want to hold bottles today. Let's just do something that I don't have to. I even think I said in the video, let's do a video where I don't have to hold a bottle. I think I may have said that in the video, actually. So, but what do I think? Well, here's the thing. I was very diplomatic about that video, and even though I'm on good terms with some other influencers, I feel like they made clapback videos, which is funny when you got somebody with 50,000, 100,000 subs doing a clapback to a guy with only 1,000 subs.
Well, even though you have a smaller amount of subs, they must obviously value your opinion enough to want to respond to it.
To defend themselves. And then there was some passive aggressive language that was not aimed at anyone directly, but it was like, oh yeah. And the people who always say they don't edit their videos, the people who just take videos from their camera, from their cell phone camera, and they're just jealous,
Well, I have a feeling that you're not really jealous, because that's not what you're in it for to begin with. It's not like you feel like you're missing out.
No, it's like, so then I went to the comment section of said video, and I put my piece down saying, no, the reason why I make fun of the folks who do all the editing in their videos and do all the like crazy jump cuts and stuff in the graphics and the royalty-free music is they really end up making a video that feels more like the adult version of watching Coco Melon, where you're just being bombarded by shapes and colors.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes, and there's no substance there. That's why I make fun of that stuff, because it's like you're watching a telenovela or something, or a Bollywood soap where it's constantly and anything you were going to say about whatever you were talking about gets lost in all that stuff.
Right.
And then the whole reason why I talk about how I don't edit my videos, and the reason why I always mention that, is people in my comment section, not these other folks making content, not these other influencers. People in my own comment section will always complain about all the mic, all the lighting is crap. Oh, there's they'll make all these little nitpicks about my stuff. And then that's when I have to say, I don't edit my videos. I don't do nothing because it's a hobby for me. I'm not monetized. I'm not making money off this. I don't have sponsors. I do this until it's not fun anymore for me, and then I stop doing it. So that's why I do it. So it's like,
Karen says, Coco Melon has a plot. How dare you?
Yeah. So it's not even like I'm trying to compete against these guys who are selling stuff, who are wearing suit and tie. And like I said, they're doing the whole ShamWow Ron Popeil thing. Like if that's what they actually have do.
Like the neon background,
here's the link in the description. Go click and get 20% off your purchase. Like if that's your, and I've also said time and time again that I respect your hustle. We live in a weird world. People don't make enough money on their day jobs anymore. If your side hustle is being a perfume guy, do that. I am not jealous of you. I am not anything other than just poking the bear, because sometimes I see some things and I throw some shade because I see behavior that wrinkles my brow a little bit, and that's why I say stuff. But it is not like, don't take it personally. Don't clap back. I'm not jealous of you. I could have 1,000 videos and still only have 1,000 subscribers, and not care, because I'm not even doing this for any professional anything. I just literally, like, it's almost a video diary, if you want to call it that. It's just me making a video diary of my opinion about perfume, and I wouldn't even be doing it at all on YouTube if friends of mine weren't pushing me to do these videos. Like, I was just happy writing reviews on Base Notes. I was happy with my WordPress, which I don't actually pay for my domain on WordPress either. I still have the free one. That's how unprofessional I am at this,
So I think that when people are reactive to these things, it is a certain self-consciousness. I think that when people react at all, part of it has to do with their awareness that it may or may not be directed to them. And the thing is it's just a critique. It's not like it's going to jeopardize their livelihood.
No.
It's definitely not going to jeopardize their audience. And I have been there. I've mentioned in the past that I've been a provocateur, and I have criticized the approach in which people choose to discuss, describe, gatekeep, or you could use a different word. If gatekeep is an annoying word to people, but there is, there's definitely a snobbery with certain, and we're not even talking about like the influencers. That's not, but they're, the ones that have a certain following, and they rely on this certain cachet to maintain that following. And, I had some choice words, and I had some critique on some of the information that I felt wasn't really well researched, well studied. And a lot of it was just not accurate. And I addressed that in comments or privately, and it wasn't well received.
I know what you're referencing.
It wasn't well received again and again. And then they started to treat me really shitty. And then I really decided at that point that this wasn't the right community for me. So all bets were off. Like, this isn't my community. These people are not embracing me. So I'm going to criticize some of the things that they say that are not necessarily true, not necessarily accurate, or sensitive, even like some insensitive stuff too. So, and I was a little bull in a china shop with it, and it backfired. But the thing is that, 3 years later, 2 years later, I think a lot more people are realizing that, you know what I mean? I think the most obnoxious part of it is when a certain faction of content creators, quote unquote, want to set themselves, they want to identify themselves as being authentic, being the real deal, and pointing fingers at others like, this person's not doing it right. This person is a grifter. That person, is a jackass. Exactly. It's like, it's really, it just is, like, to me, I find that to be really hypocritical, because if you didn't want me to do that, then why are you doing it? Why are you doing it to other people? Why are you choosing to be the provocateur and being overly opinionated and like in a hostile way to multiple other content creators because they happen to get promotional bottles?
Yeah,
like it's like, that makes really me feel like there's like enviousness there. Like, are they jealous? Because I'm sure as hell not jealous. Like, I don't care. Like,
I don't really have room for more bottles. If I was getting all these promotional bottles, I'd have to give them away, because I would fill up my little 980 square foot apartment really fast, more than I already do with all this that's right here. So And don't get me wrong, I love free samples. And when my friends mail me surprise bottles, when Anuj packs my purchase with extra bottles, when I get the stuff, I appreciate it. And a lot of times if it's something good, I'll keep it. But these days, because of the room, the George Carlin scenario, a lot of times if I get a cool new bottle that for free or from someone that's packs my thing a little extra, I have to then find something that I want to get rid of to make room for it.
Mm.
I can't just keep adding. So therefore, that's one of the reasons why I don't do the promotional stuff, because I would get these packages in with entire lines, like whoever, Parfums de Marley, Mind Games. And then I'd have to figure out, okay, now I got to sell this stuff. I got to give it away because I don't have anywhere to put it. And I'm not going to rent a storage shed, like a PS public storage shed, just to stick all this promo stuff that people are mailing me because they want me to do this for them.
You couldn't pay me to take that shit. I don't want it. I ran out of room. Like, I don't want it. I don't want the stuff. I already know I'm not going to like it. I already know I'm going to write, like, if I write a review, it's going to backfire. Do you know how many times I've written a critical review and I've actually had brands harass me, brands write me letters, like imploring me to take down
Change
reviews? Like,
yeah, I'm just like send me samples.
Rachel, lovely to see you, Rachel. Rachel's going to be back with us for our quarterly live. She's going to be with us on May 16th. She's in Chicago now for a thing, but sneaking out for a few minutes to join. So lovely to see you. Oh,
I'm like, if you're a brand and you want me to evaluate your perfume, just do this. Just give me this.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I want. Don't give me a full. I'm not, like. And I know Persolaise is harassed for getting the full bottles, but I think he at least, like, I know for a fact. I've had people in my private messages like, oh, did you know about Persolaise? It's like, why are you throwing him under the bus when he's like one of the more reputable people who actually can articulate their thoughts and his, he is able to assess fragrance in an intelligent way. And then a lot of content creators really honestly can't. I'm tired of like pussyfooting around it. So what I hear is when people complain that he gets free promotional bottles, that just sounds like there's a thorn in their side, that there's this resentment. Like, why does it matter? It's not like,
I don't have that at all.
I just don't get it. It's like, what's it to you? And why badmouth people who've been nothing but nice to you too?
Yeah,
it's just like mind-boggling to me. It's like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah, like, I'm like, if these influencers wanted to really talk to me with all their promotional bottles and they don't want them anymore, I'm like, we can figure out a trade, and I'll trade you some stuff that I don't want, that I bought, like backups that I'm never going to use, stuff like that. Like, we'll make it something productive out of it. But one other thing I wanted to say is, like, there are a lot of the content creators that I actually like. So it makes me kind of sad when they do make a video like that where they're attacking or they're defending or they're being passive aggressive towards me, towards you, or towards any other smaller person. And it's like, it's not coming from a place of jealousy. I'm just taking the piss. Okay, you understand how my humor works. A lot of times I will take the piss, and in most cases, if they're just taking the piss back, and there are a couple of people that have a similar sense of humor as me, maybe it's a bit more of an English UK sense of humor, where you're kind of like just playfully picking on someone, but it's not serious, then they can make fun of me back without saying my name. And I don't take offense to it because I understand that they're doing what I do. They're just dishing it back, and that's cool. And I'm okay with that. I don't get mad at that. But like, and I talk to a lot of these folks, DMs with Robes08. I've talked to Eugen a little bit. I'm not good friends with him or nothing. What's his name? Dan. I bought his fragrances, so I must like him enough to buy his fragrances. Mr. Smelly 77, I think. I haven't bought Eugen's stuff, but his stuff's a little more pricey, and he doesn't run deals. See, the only reason why I got these is because Dan ran a deal. He had like buy 3 for 1 lump price or whatever. So that was good to me, so I bought those, and they're really good, actually. I really enjoy them. It's funny because so many people came into my comment section when I did a video on his brand, and they were just being really rude and throwing a bunch of dirt on him and all this stuff. And I'm like, you have to treat it like musical artists, where if you don't like the personality of the artist, but you like the band, or you don't like the director's personal life, but you like the movie, it's just like that, man. Like, you have to just kind of go, okay, these perfumes smell really good. They're done really well. They have good taste, and whatever. Who cares if they have opinions on YouTube that I don't like? You know, it's like, I don't give a shit that certain metal artist has a somewhat problematic view on something. As long as it's not in his music, I'll still spin the record. I don't care. So what if a director maybe said some really bad stuff once on Facebook or whatever? As long as that sentiment's not in the film, I'll still watch the movies he makes. It's like, that's the same thing. It's like, people came at me when I bought those Naughton and Wilson fragrances, like I'm supposed to hate them because the guy or whatever. And I just think that's so stupid to me. It's like, you just got to divorce sometimes that stuff. I don't like R. Kelly.
You don't?
No. And even before I found out he was, doing what he does, I never liked his stuff anyway. I mean, yeah, it was in movies and stuff.
Not even his ballads?
No, it's just,
I can fly.
I don't know, man. There was always something kind of sleazy about
Jam or something. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, who? What?
The perfume guy. That's one person I don't mind throwing under the bus, because he does this whole arbitrage thing. And he set up his little side business like that too. I'm the curator. I'm the consultant. You come to me. I help you find the rarest, best vintages. And then I barter the transaction between you and my brokers. And he's trying to turn vintage fragrances into like bottles of fine wine. And it really sucks, because there's so many people out there who used to like discovering a lot of these obscure fragrances. But when you got one guy trying to turn it all into fucking Sotheby's, it's like, that sucks. We don't need that. So... And it just, that furthers the hoarding, that furthers the 15,000 backups stacked into a pyramid. Like, you don't need that, because then you end up with situations like I have, but like 10 times worse than this, where now you've got 50 bottles of everything. Your house is a perfume store, and you're not going to wear any of that. And it's either going to be put on a boat with you and shipped off and burned like a Viking funeral, or you're going to get buried with all of it like Tutankhamun, and someone 1,000 years from now is going to uncover it and find it all. So
that's
like,
my plan. That's actually, I have that all mapped out. Yeah.
So I know you talked to him a little bit, Sebastian Jar or whatever, but I'm just like, that's a really toxic mentality. And I get he's doing it because it's money. It's a money-making thing. He can do that curation, provenance thing.
Yeah,
but
I definitely encourage opinion and opinions, even if they're different from my own. I don't know enough about how he organizes his business to really have that form of an opinion. I mean, if that is so, that's using a certain level of power with an audience, that
like snatching up every bottle of Dior like someone in the comment section said, he's snatching up every bottle of Dior Homme Parfum so he can resell them, snatching up every bottle of Balenciaga Pour Homme, snatching up every bottle of, Like,
I feel weird having like one backup of a certain fragrance, because then, the very rational side of me is like, what am I doing? I'm not even when am I going to get through the first bottle? So there is something kind of strange about that when you're backing up dozens and dozens of bottles of a fragrance.
What's to resell, though? It's to resell. It's not the key.
To resell. Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe that should be a little bit more discreet. Why isn't it being discreet? Because I don't think that most people would believe that he is backing up those bottles to wear them for the rest of his lifetime. The guy's in his 50s. He's not going to be able to get through all of those bottles in his lifetime when he has thousands of fragrances. I mean, I'm real. I know that my collection is not meant to be worn, and some people take issue with that. Some of it is. Obviously, I like to wear fragrance. I wear sometimes 2-3 fragrances in a day, but I know realistically, it's just a library that I created because I like collecting things. It's like any other person with a collector bug, where you kind of know you're not going to be using everything in your collection. One
No, same here.
prime example of that is a library of books. Many people who love collecting books know that they're not going to read a lot of those books ever again. But
They'll read them once and that's it.
Read them once and then they have it, and it's like a memento of their experience reading that book, or it's for the collector value. And it's just the same idea. And people have that argument, well, you know, I buy fragrances to wear them. You know, I don't just buy them to put them on a shelf and collect dust. Well, that's just not the way that's not the relationship that you have with a fragrance. And nobody in this community should be pointing fingers at anyone else for what kind of relationship they should have with wearing, collecting fragrance, what their taste should be. I think it's so disgusting when people want to go on diatribes about, like, you know, somebody's taste in fragrance. Like my taste, I'll say that I think something's crappy, but I'm not going to go at great lengths to criticize people because they have inferior taste in fragrance. Like, who the fuck am I? Like,
yeah,
like
that's
I'm not
weird too.
Because then you come off as like smug, like kind of arrogant. Like, I'm the authority. I have superior taste in fragrance. Like, you know, modern fragrance is shit. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah, I run into a lot of that too.
Yeah.
I don't run into that with YouTubers, though. I run into that with just general population folks, you know, base notes, comment sections, where people will sit there and try and say that, you know, because you like something, your whole view on fragrances is objectively inferior to theirs because you like one fragrance, they don't. Oh, well, you like this, so your opinion's shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So who died and made you the arbiter of us all, right? And it just seems kind of silly to me when people do that, but
it's projection.
Just circling back to what you were saying.
It's still projection. We got to remember it's projection, because if somebody feels an insecurity and they need to deal with that insecurity by feeling like they have a sense of superiority in their knowledge, in their taste, in how they persuade other people or get other people's attention, it's a projection of that insecurity. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just circling back to what I said before. It's like, I just like a lot of the people who basically act like I don't like them, I actually like them. So it makes me sad, not upset, when they can't take a joke, when they can't realize I'm just taking the piss when I'm pulling a leg a little bit, you know, or just like if I support someone, I buy their product, I buy, you know, their perfume range or whatever. And then it's like suddenly I have to endorse every opinion, every value that they have because I bought their product. You know, it's this like all or nothing sort of mentality that everyone has in general. It's just,
well, yeah, like, it's on brand for social media interaction and social media quote unquote engagement. Anything that's nuanced, anything that's a gray area is going to be rejected because it's not something that can be controlled. It's not easy to digest. It's not easy to just, people feel more comfortable when things are black and white, good and bad, right? So you have some nuance in between. People don't feel comfortable with that because they don't, it's like a control thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So Splinter 47, hello gents, scent of the day, La Couche du Diable from Serge Luton's Forgo Perfumes, many different content creators. I mean, we're talking about people on TikTok, we're talking about people on Instagram, YouTube. I mean, I've seen it even on Substack, and I haven't even officially started my Substack. Karen says, they thought they brought pitchforks and torches to my village because I like Joe Malone. Oh,
yeah, exactly. What? It's so silly.
What? Why?
It's so silly.
That is so obnoxious. I actually love a few from Joe Malone. Joe Malone has one of the best rose fragrances and red roses. And people always want to peg me as like, oh, that's the vintage snob, or like, oh, he's a niche snob. Joe Malone has a great, the red roses is great. There was a recent release just a couple of years ago, Wisteria and Lavender, the best Joe Malone fragrance nobody has ever heard of. Blackberry and Bay is nice. Pomegranate Noir. scores of others. I love that they're minimalist because minimalism, I like minimalism in visual art too. I like that there's this legibility to the fragrances, and it's partly, because they're just so thematic and they're modular. And I think it actually is a cool idea to take these quality made modular minimalist fragrances and experiment with layering. You don't have to get a 100 ml bottle. Like, the complaint is like, oh, but they're so expensive. That's so cynical that they expect people to layer them. Don't I think they also sell like 15 ml bottles or 30 ml bottles or something. But that's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know who you're talking about who got the pitchforks out, but I mean, that's some lame shit.
I mean, I definitely said my piece about the Joe Malones being really overpriced for what they are, but that's like you mentioned earlier, that's my opinion. That's
your person. There's a difference between your personal opinion and then projecting that opinion on others and making other people feel inferior because they happen to enjoy or appreciate something. And that's the kind of nasty stuff. That's the kind of like lowbrow, coarse, unintelligent shit that I find.
Yeah, it is. And I guess we can kind of come full circle to this and tie this into Animalics, because it's sort of, Animalics is sort of that same line in the sand where you got the people who think that the more animalic it is, the more dirty it smells, the superior it is, that you have a refined nose. You have ascended to a level beyond the normal mortal fragrance user because you drape yourself in Hyraceum and smell like mouse turds. And anyone who doesn't want to smell like mouse turds is just the pleb, is the poser, It's like the metalheads, you can't wear that band shirt unless you know that band's very first demo and know all their albums and every single guitar player who's ever.
Or like indie rockers, like, their first EP was the best. Their first album, it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, and it's like, then you got people on the other side of that equation and go, ooh, why would you want to stink? Why would you want to smell bad? Right. Because they're from that sanitized era I told you, where they don't grok why that kind of smell would be appealing, because they never developed that association. And they can develop it, like the beer analogy. They can take it to small degrees,
a palate,
learn to like it.
Yeah.
But unless they're willing to do that, and there's no one forcing them to, so you end up with this line in the sand of, oh, well, see, I'm this elevated taste-making superior being because I wear raw civet on my skin, and people think that I sleep in the alley, right? And then on the other hand, it's, me and my Invictus Aqua Flanker 2024, seventh son of a seventh son of the same methyl maltol shit we've had for the last 20 years. I don't know why this weirdo wants to smell like a trash can. I like smelling like bubble gum and shower gel, sprinkled with a little bit of cinnamon or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, never the twain can really get along. And then it just ends up this. And I'm just like, it doesn't need to be this.
But I actually have more tolerance to those who may not be able to appreciate animalic fragrances because of whatever reason, because it's just they don't want to develop the palate for it, than the other way around, where people are, their nose is up in the air and like you're a plebe because you can't appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like that. Like, I just find that to be much more obnoxious, because I have this realistic perspective of the world, and most of the world doesn't give a rat's ass what any of us are talking about or wearing to begin with. So I'm not going to get all bent out of shape because people don't understand my hobby, don't understand my taste in fragrances, that I'm somehow, more cultured as a result of it, when there's so much more like important shit going on anyways.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, it's super old, and like, I feel like I used to be part of that conversation, and it just really got tiresome. It felt so obnoxious. Like, I didn't want people to get that impression that I'm like that. So I had to distance myself from that, Like, I think that people still just by association think that I'm part of that kind of mentality, and it's like, no way, no, no.
Well, I feel like it's that checklist thing I was telling you about earlier, where if you enjoy this thing, you must also subscribe to all these other opinions and mindsets. So it's like the
yeah,
fact
yeah,
that you like a vintage fragrance means you're automatically one of those gatekeeper types, because everyone who wears that fragrance must have that same mentality,
right,
right?
right, yeah,
Just like
yeah.
everyone who
People
wears
come to that
Invictus,
conclusion.
must be some brain dead like compliment bro who only cares about his BMI and how many deadlifts he can do and how many phone numbers he can jot down in a nightclub. But like here I am, the most homely looking potato on earth, dressed in pajamas, and here's my bottle of Invictus.
Right.
Am I now a compliment bro? Where's my backwards hat? Where
Yeah.
are my Oakleys at? Okay. Where's my Subaru out in the parking lot there? WRX. I don't, the checklist, it doesn't, you can't do that
Yeah.
because you never know who is going to like what, So, and it's like, I got this. And then, like, in the literally, like, the very same cabinet as this, I also have this, which is like a lot of folks' vintage holy grail. And here they are and sharing the same space together. Two whole different worlds. And they're in the same cabinet. And it just tickles me when people can't fathom that you can actually listen to Lady Gaga, but also listen to Cannibal Corpse. Like, it just doesn't register to people.
It is possible.
It is. So,
Ricardo, I can't imagine loving my fragrances and not being able to wear them because I have thousands of bottles in rotation. The anxiety is real. Yeah, I guess I'm going to count on AI to allow me to live forever so I can wear all of them through multiple centuries of my life. I'm just joking.
People also ask me, do you drink Coke or do you drink Pepsi? I say I drink whatever's on sale.
Yeah. Splinter 47, everyone has their taste. No need to shame others. I don't like aquatic fragrances, but I wouldn't go out of my way to hate on those that do. Yeah, there's a difference between sharing one's personal opinion about a fragrance and how they perceive it than to use that as a judgment on other people for their appreciating it. And that's just the point that we're trying to make, or at least I'm trying to make. I think Derek's on the same page that it's wise to draw the line there because it's not comely behavior. It's just not a very kind thing to do, to judge other people, not only for their taste in fragrance, which I feel like is the most egregious of things, but things like music taste in movies, taste in food. It's like, live and let live, man. Like, why focus your energy on people who have different tastes than you do, and putting yourself up, exalting yourself above them because of it? I just think it's like a very low emotional intelligence behavior. I really do. Dwayne says, if I'm not mistaken, Rich's favorite Argos was the one that smelled like bubblegum. You're just a troublemaker, Dwayne. I'm not going to pay attention. Not paying attention to you. Well, you're not that commentary. I'll pay attention to you otherwise. Vanessa Barnes or Corpse Grinder guy? Maybe you can answer that if you're willing.
I just did.
You did. Oh, you already did. There you go. Some indie brands just don't know how to do animalics and overdose materials they're not supposed to. There's a lot of indie brands. There's a lot of artisan brands, self-taught, autodidact, if you will. But they may not necessarily be as talented or skillful. I'm sorry that I'm going to be blunt. It's just the truth, because there is this more democratic approach, to a degree, within the realm of capitalism, for people to obtain materials and put things together whatever way they see fit and create perfumes out of them. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily a skilled or talented perfumer. It just means that they are a perfumer. It's like art, I don't like to point fingers and say that's not art and that is art, because who am I to decide what is and what isn't art? Maybe that's a little too postmodernist for some people who expect me not to go there, but I don't like to say what is art and what is not art, but I can say in my personal opinion what I think is good art and bad art. And there's a lot of bad art and there's a lot of bad perfume, and the bad perfumes come from perfume lines that happen to have materialized into existence and are in the marketplace. And, Mike, perhaps in the future, Vintage Sauvage and Invictus would be like holy grails in the fragrance community. Kuros was once a basic bro scent too, and that's true.
Correct. Very, very
True.
correct.
A basic bro scent in 1982, 83, 85.
Before Aventus was king, Koros was king.
Yep.
And you still get the old guys who say that Koros is still king, and then the new guys, slightly old now because Aventus is almost 20 years old, but you get the younger guys are like, Aventus is king, and then like the two of y'all are sort of like having this boomer versus millennial who's going to eat the avocado toast first kind of battle royale.
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't they both be kings? Okay, maybe we'll do a timeshare, and Koros can be the king on even days, and Aventus can be the king on odd days, and everybody's happy. So
don't put Sauvage batch code bros out into the universe. I just wouldn't give them the time of day. I don't really. It's not worth even having a conversation. That's like a whole other universe to me. It's that would make a good sociological study, a study on pro-social behavior. Yeah, there's your Sauvage. I absolutely loathe Sauvage personally. I understand its historical and cultural value, and I don't think it's a badly made perfume. I think it's disgusting, though.
This is a 2015 first year bottle of Sauvage that was given to me on a birthday. So this is a deep vintage, deep as deep vintage is going to get bottle of Sauvage. So someday you're going to have someone on Base Notes or Fragrantica literally writing scripture about this bottle and how it is so superior and how anyone who doesn't have this doesn't have the real Sauvage. And I'm going to be there holding this bottle, laughing my ass off at them.
Yeah, you go and do that. You go on with your bad self and your Sauvage. There's fragrances I have that people think are god awful too. I mean, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. Sell it for $1,500 in 2035.
Yeah, you know what?
Yes.
I might just do it.
Sauvage creates animalic smells. Spaced Out. Hi, good to see you. What are the brands that never clicked with you? Oh, goodness. Let's open that Pandora's box. Why don't we?
Uh-oh. Let's do it.
God. Oh, my God. Can my reputation be even more at risk if I were to
I don't have one to lose.
Oh, shut up.
I mean, I'm the guy. My reputation is I'm the guy that I'm the guy that people only notice when I make someone with a lot of subs angry. I'm that guy. I'm only relevant when I piss somebody off who's got a lot of followers. Otherwise, I don't exist.
But why do they get so pissed off? See, this is the thing. Why do they get so pissed off if they have a lot of followers and they have an audience and they don't really have much to lose? So why do they get
weird.
Off?
Some little like white knight, comes to, oh, you hear what this guy over here said about you? And
it's because you're hitting them in an Achilles heel, because if they were confident enough in themselves, they wouldn't care. And what you're doing is you're holding up a mirror. I'm telling you, you hold up a mirror and they don't like that you're holding up that mirror to them. And regardless of how many subscribers or followers or whatever they call their minions or their crew, their posse.
Oh God, I hate that.
You're holding up a mirror and they don't feel comfortable with looking at that mirror. So they're going to get upset even though they don't really have anything at stake. Right? Mm-hmm. So like, that's the funny part of it. That's kind of like the punchline. It's like, why are you guys getting bent out of shape? If you're confident enough in that what you're doing has integrity, honesty, it's in good faith, and that you're being kind, then why do you care?
Yeah, brands I've never really clicked with. Byredo, never. I got real close, but never really clicked with Byredo. Just like I liked Sunday Cologne. I liked that 11th Hour, the one that's like the end of the world fragrance. I like those two. But yeah, most of the ones that everyone freaks out about, like Baldaff Freak and
I find
Oud
half of them.
Immortal or whatever. Just never really.
I find half of them to be really boring. Not really more than two-dimensional, and then some of them have very beautiful openings, but the dry downs bother
1996 is the one.
That's a more interesting one. I liked 1996, like the M Mink, very unusual fragrance that uses this component called a doxyl, which almost smells like egg white. It's a very strange fragrance, but I found that to be fascinating. And there's a few that smell pleasant, or they smell nice, and but they don't really have good legs. There's something about their bases.
Yeah.
No matter, I mean, there could be multiple perfumers who are creating them, and they always sort of bottom out, like when they develop.
This is going to make you laugh, but like my literal favorite Byredo, which I still don't own because I don't own it. I don't like any of them enough to buy them, but my favorite Byredo is one called Flowerhead because it smells literally like a late 80s bottle of White Rain shampoo. And I realized because showerhead. Someone took their favorite shampoo. It's probably not made anymore. Revlon Flex would be another one or Fabergé Organics, but that late 80s shampoo smell that we all grew up with is the smell of that fragrance.
Fabergé Organics shampoo shines your hair like you want it to.
Yes, literally it is that fragrance without the shampoo part of it. And so as a kid in the 80s who had that growing up, and when I smelled that, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I'm not paying $300 for it though, but it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'd pay $30 for this. Take a zero off and then come talk to me.
Right, because if it smells so much like a functional type of fragrance, which I think, shampoo does have a function, it's not.
Yeah.
Then why would you spend $300 on it? So Billy asks, JJ, do you have much experience with Nasomato? The one and only fragrance from Nasomato that I purchased was Absinthe, and I first purchased it back in 2008, 2009. It was like a signature scent for me at the time because I was at a time that I would wear one scent for weeks on end. This is long before I became the nut that I am now. I never bought any others. I've sampled a number of others. It's really hit or miss for me, I think, as a perfumer as a whole. Alessandro Gualtieri, I think that's his name, if my brain is working. I have a tough time with his style. I'm really not a fan of the Orto Parisi line. I find them to be really overstuffed with high impact materials. They're headache inducing. They're dense. They're like wall of sound, but wall of smell. But I do like.
They're the Butch Vig of perfumes.
I beg your pardon?
You're the Butch Vig of perfumes.
Yes.
Producer of
It's a good analogy, right?
Yeah, like Siamese Dream, Nevermind, all those albums with those 15 different layers of guitars smacked together. Yeah.
In spite of my rage, I'm still.
Yeah, he is the Butch. Ordo Parisi is like the Butch Vig of perfumes. It's ridiculous.
Now you were holding up the blue poopy. Show us the blue poopy. Isn't that from Perfumer Workshop? Is that Samba?
Yes, this is my answer to Flowerhead. You want to smell like a mid to late 80s bottle of shampoo. You can do it for like $12. And this is it. Now this is sold to men. This is Samba for men. Women's version is also good if you like Orange Blossom. If you're into stuff like Derazade by Alderson, you'd like the women's version of Samba. But if you want more of that like shampoo, a lot of cyclamen, hyacinth, all those like buzzy white florals and the real sheer like, musks profile, like that shampoo profile, balsam and protein. This is it, buddy, right here. And it'll set you back less than a meal Burger King. Will cost you more money than this.
The 90s love cyclaminaldehyde. There's a ton of cyclaminaldehyde used in perfumes in the 90s. A lot of Frisia Fleurif, cyclaminaldehyde. I would honestly say a good chunk of Byredo fragrances smell very similar to 90s fragrances that you would be able to spend like a fraction of the price, honestly.
Yeah. And this
Like
came
there's
out in
one.
literally 1990. So this is actually period correct for that style of shampoo anyway.
Right.
This fragrance probably came out, and men who bought this in 1990 were like, "Hey man, this smells like my favorite shampoo. Cool." And that's
Karen
how they
says I
discovered it.
followed you before everyone hated you.
Yeah, there you
Which
go.
which one of us is that directed
Either of us, honestly, at this point.
Well, at least people in the YouTube realm. I mean, I don't really have any sort of like loyalty to the YouTube realm because I just don't. I don't care. But
Yeah.
what do you mean? Who are you talking about? I'm like cracking up at that. Thanks. Jean-Qui Scent, hi. Scent of the day, afternoon of a fond. Lovely Ralph Schweiger. Beautiful fragrance. I love the rose and immortelle in that. It smells like more of a vintage fragrance for the releases from État Libre d'Orange. Splinter 47, I know it's tough to pick just one, but what is your must-have perfume in your collection? Oh, Lord have mercy on me. This is always a tough one because like I can't pick one. I just can't pick one of them. I can pick one of the must-haves. During the apocalypse, I'll have 200 of them. Some black suede.
Yeah.
Oh God. I would have to say Lurien from Miller Harris. I have a very strong personal connection with Lurien from Miller Harris. That's one of them. Serge Lutens Arabi, because it reminds me of a very happy time in my life. A lot of good memories when I was wearing Arabi from Serge Lutens. Abbé Rouge, the Eau de Toilette, and Odermez. Odermez was like a gateway drug for me when I walked into Colonial Drug here in the Boston area, and that opened my door to so much. Let's see.
This will drive all the vintage guys crazy. Are you foaming at the mouth yet?
Yeah. I love that bottle. I love it.
This is they actually put the year on this, so I know exactly how old this is. This is really? A 1976 bottle of Abbé Rouge Cologne. See, there it is. You can see it right on the bottle.
Brilliant. We have some questions that I've been starring, and since Pat asked this again, I'm gonna give him the privilege of no, that's fine. Derek, you were being asked if you sampled anything from Les Indémodables. The timeless. That's what it is in French.
No, I haven't gotten any dummy doubles yet, unfortunately.
Dummy doubles.
Haven't gotten any dummy doubles.
I have. You probably already know that, Pat. That's not going to be any surprise to you.
But I can appreciate the gravity of the situation, though. I can appreciate the gravity of the situation.
I love that. That's the bottle that it used to come in before it got stuck in the other older into the bottles. That was like when it was first released. I remember when it first came into the store.
Here's what the box looked like too in 1992.
Yeah,
this weird corrugated box is what it came in with this little slip over thing that has the information on it and shows the size of the bottle on the back. But that's what it looked like. This is the actual retail packaging. So.
Bonsoir. Welcome, Elgebrest. Let's take a look at the like count. We have 31. Let's try to aim for 40 by the end of the stream. 45 if I'm feeling ambitious. That would be nice. So if you haven't already liked the stream, please don't hesitate to just do that one simple boop, that one simple click. And that helps with the algorithm so people see fantastic content like this where two bozos talk about perfume.
Fantastic.
Les Indémodables is overrated, but
yes.
Karen, I will say that it is kind of overrated for what I mean. I say that as somebody who does have 4 of the fragrances in my collection. That I don't think that they were like the pinnacle. I do take some issue with the way that they market their fragrances based on the terroir and the authenticity of the materials, especially when I'm not really sure how much of the materials are actually being used in any one of the fragrances. It seems a little, I don't know. Yeah. But I do love a few of them that were done, a few that were done by Antoine Lee. I think that actually my favorite of the four does happen to be Oriental Velour. Sorry, Asian American Velour. I do.
I don't care.
Most Islam Asian American.
I'm
Sorry,
not.
no. We'll call it Amber Velour.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not Michael Edwards. I don't care.
Sounds like a stripper, Amber Velour. Okay, so Oriental Velour is my favorite. Mustasable is lovely. Ambossaplan, very nice. The ambergris tincture, I believe it. I detect what seems to be ambergris tincture from my experience with it. So I'm not just like talking out of my ass. It's not like I'm like, oh, I definitely smell the ambergris without ever having smelled ambergris. And what's the fourth one that I have? The Rose de Jamal. But yeah, this is the thing, like I'm at that point as a reviewer and a critic that I'm not going to overinflate the egos of these houses. That's not really what I'm in the market for, because that seems kind of disingenuous. It seems like I have some sort of agenda in mind if I'm doing that. So yeah, don't expect that kind of stuff from me. Algebraist, the very dull fragrance. I like how he goes right for the jugular here. The very dull fragrances, exquisite materials alone don't make interesting accords. That's what I can appreciate about this gentleman, who's actually going to be a guest of mine. His name is Jamal. He is going to be a guest of mine on May 20th for the penultimate Effluvium. So he and I will be sharing our opinions on things for that particular live stream. All right. They definitely aren't Argos.
What is Argos? I don't even know what Argos is.
They make yeah. If Argos was in the room with Les and Dimmadab, then it would be at that time that I would say Les and Dimmadab deserves to be at the pinnacle, because Argos is not a good house. No way.
Argos is easier to say, though. I give them that.
At least it's easier to say.
And I can say Argos. I can't say.
It's definitely targeted to a market where they want easier to say things. Yeah. All right, let's stop with the shade. All right. Yeah, well, I feel like French always makes things sound fancier, right? Les and Dimmadab.
I feel like if I review a Les Immedable Double Dibble Labba Yabba Dabba Doo fragrance, if I want to review one of those, I need to have like a cigarette in one hand and like a glass of Sauvignon Blanc in the other, and like a beret and like a striped shirt and overalls, and you have the little, have like someone playing concertina in the background. Then I could, smell the fragrance, and then you hear Minuet playing in the background, like that, Yeah.
You'll hear some Edith Piaf in the background.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Italie de Plange gave far better briefs for Lee. Yes.
Yeah.
Mike, do you guys think that the Petrovica guy really is the perfumer of Argos?
Only if you think Pierre Montal is the perfumer for all of Montal's fragrances.
Yeah. He's the creative director. All right. So I've smelled a few samples. I thought that they were god awful, like something that, and this is the cynicism of a lot of these like luxury houses that people are calling niche, is it's basically like I smell them and it's like, if you were to hand it to me not knowing, I would think it would just be like a midline designer release that's being sold at Macy's, or the $35 fragrance net special. Like I every time I smell these, I just am blown away that they are charging $350 to $400, because my nose is convinced that they are not expensive perfumes. They do not smell expensive. They put way more money into the marketing, the bottle, the coffret, the prestige, the gold, the studs, the gemstones, all that garbage.
Yeah.
Like the perfumes themselves are just really bad. Yeah.
Electimus is the same way for me. Like they just.
Yeah. I mean, how can you do better than a
Oh my
collaboration
goodness.
with Rossi De Palma? I know you're talking about the one. It's beautiful. Eau de Protection. Yeah, that's a beautiful fragrance. Yeah. Still can't believe Rich Mitch sold out to Argus. Dwayne, you are fucking around with us, right? You're just stirring the pot. I just don't picture him going there. But
Yeah.
what do I know at this point? L'Antoine Lee does. Trill Noel is the ghost perfect. Remember him, Derek? Trill
Mhm.
Noel? What happened to him? Whatever happened to Trill Noel?
He's still making perfumes. His brand
Is
is
he,
still going, so
his
people are
brand is
buying
still
it.
going,
So I mean,
even with
power again, power to him.
the numerous complaints of blisters on the skin and rashes and particulate matter in the fragrance. Like that guy, yeah, we're not going to open up that can of worms. No,
Yeah, like I
no,
said,
no.
if you're doing your hustle, I can respect that. It's whatever.
During
You're
hustle
lean, you're
with
thriving, hydrated, all that stuff.
willfully disregarding OSHA guidelines and best practices and eating ramen next to your work
Some of
space.
these perfumers, they also sort of like defy the Geneva Convention too. Certain ones.
Oh, Christ almighty. 28 people tuned in. This is wonderful. We have some questions from earlier, and I do hope that the people had not since been terrified away from the stream. So their answer,
That
the
was the
questions
risky run bringing me in here. You know that.
cannot be answered. Just stirring Rich's pot of gold. Yeah. All right, let's see here. So, Regis, I hope you're still here, but I wanted to get to these questions, including yours. Has Derek tried Rogue Perfumery's Chypre Siam? And if so, does he think that it's very animalic?
I have not tried it. I think I have samples. I'm not sure if that one's in the samples. I can check my sample drawer real quick, and I can tell you if I have that here. And then if I do, I can try to smell it on camera. Let's see. Tap back there. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I do have a sample. I just haven't gotten to the line yet. But let me see. What do I think of this right here on camera? This is an exclusive in Effluvium. Oh, with the roller ball. Son of a bitch. I got to apply this now. I don't want to apply this. Okay. I can kind of smell it. Close enough for government work. I mean, I get a ball of a sigh vibe to it. Shocking, I get that whole that indolic kind of, there's jasmine, indolic jasmine rose, a little bit of like some kind of civet maybe, but it's probably animalis based. I'm not sure. I don't think Manny is using real civet, so it's probably using one of the fermentation. It's fermentation that makes it's Simrise that makes the animalis.
Simrise, yes.
Yeah, it makes the animalis.
Tonquatone is IFF, and Simrise does the animalis. Yes.
So I definitely smell like that sort of, and the vibe. It's that sweetened breath kind of feeling.
Yes.
It's like that little bit of, like you mentioned, like that bad, naughty sweetness. I get that here, but this does not smell unsanitary. This does not.
Unhygienic.
No, this doesn't. So,
no.
Granted, someone who's used to wearing Abercrombie and Fitch would probably hate this. They think it smells like, unwashed Victoria's Secret undies. But, I mean, for us people that know a thing or two, we wouldn't find that all that gross. That's not, to me, I can do more gross than that with Avon fragrances, honestly. So, I've got some up here that are pretty.
I love Muscarone. That is like one of the most envelope pushing ones. Very dirty.
What's it called?
Muscarone. I have it in a dilution of 10%. That will knock your socks off, man.
Man, where is that bottle?
That'll knock your socks off. You betcha. 26 people tuned in. And we are at 32 likes. Keep on liking.
Keep on rocking in the free world. Oh, here it is.
Keep on rocking in the free world.
Okay, here we go. This is like one of Avon's most animalic fragrances.
Undies. Let's take a look.
Here's the perfume oil.
Oh, I love the color. The
Also a
colors,
rollerball
rather.
too. And then if you want the cologne-ish, Avon was kind of funky on their concentrations. It's more of a toilette, but if you want the cologne, here is the spray bottle. Same bottle, but just bigger and, obviously. So this is the cutest, most like Arabian Nights, Princess Jasmine looking bottle you'll ever see. This came out in like 68 or 69. But this stuff makes Koros go cry home to its mother. This will really. Oh yes.
And I love how it's such a dainty, feminine looking bottle. You would think that it would smell like cherry blossoms, but
I mean, this looks like I Dream of Genie, but this smells like freaking dominatrix for real. So Avon, Elusive. It's called Elusive, and it came out in like 68, 69. But yeah, this will knock your block off. So without a doubt. Don't let the lilac purple fool you on that one, sir.
Yeah.
That one will make you, make you call it mommy. So anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, so
yeah. Where else do we go from here with the fragrance banter? I feel like I'm stealing that. I used to do an Instagram live that was called Fragrance Banter with this gentleman that went by the name of My 2 Cents. I don't know whatever happened to him. Do you remember that? It made for an interesting combo, right? Yeah, we did that for a while, about 3 or more years ago. And we called it Fragrance Banter. Anybody in the chat, anybody watching, do you remember that? Do you remember that time so long ago? Oh, I see a little bit of British Sterling.
Deep vintage Spidel Textron bottle.
I have that one too. Time to nerd out, right?
See, that's the thing is all these people that get so obsessed over their like deep vintage bottles of Polo and stuff. I've got the deep vintage barbershop drugstore shit. So
yeah.
Like I am to your Warner Cosmere Polo, but with my British Sterling and my canoe and my English leather. That's I got all the real hardcore, but it's all that Rite Aid stuff that nobody cares about. But that's what I got. So
all the everyman delights, the blue collar favorites, the ones who just they wanted to splash something on and smell nice.
Yeah, here's my deep vintage canoe. This is also a mid-century bottle. I've used a bit of this, but I've got 2 more of them, so don't worry. But
you heard it and you've seen it here first. These are the ultimate vintage collectibles here. Pay no mind.
The little 90 up there to tell you how much alcohol is in it. It's a true cologne, so.
Yes. According to Algebraist, Hypnotic Poison was based on canoe or canoe.
Yeah, made, packaged, and sealed in France, and it doesn't have decimals as fractions, so it is 3 11/16 fluid ounce on this. That's how old it is. It uses fractions instead of decimals,
and that's a little Bakelite bottle cap, if I'm not mistaken. Very nice.
What I hate though is it has this funky little plastic seal, so you got to crank it down to make sure it doesn't leak.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jean Carl's original vision. Here it is.
Jean Carl's.
His original vision.
Jean Carl.
Jean Carl. Sorry.
Jean Carl.
My Baltimore showing again.
It's like a Jean Patou.
Yeah.
Which has also been known as, has been referred to as Jean Patou.
Here is my deep vintage Stetson back when Cody was owned by Pfizer. They're not owned by Pfizer anymore.
Easy for you.
That's how you know that this is old, because
makes it easy for you. These are the heavy hitters, guys. These are the holy grails.
Well, to me at least,
and to me too. These are the ones that really count.
Yeah, right.
They're really because they were really part of the zeitgeist of Middle America.
Oh yeah, you got to bring out the sex appeal with the original font on the box in the bottle. So
sex appeal. I love that. The Peignot, they call that the Peignot font. That is also the font that was used for Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
We're gonna make it.
That stuff was the big panty dropper of its time. So
come on, Dwayne, you're being a bastard.
This one doesn't go bad.
Spoiled shoe. No, these are perfectly preserved.
This didn't have any air in it until I opened it. The first time I had to really crack this to get it open the first time. So there was no air in this until I opened it.
You can easily get these that have been pretty preserved. There were so many of them floating around everywhere. You can get them that have been sitting somewhere in like a cold, dark space for 60 years and they're still fine.
Yeah, it was someone's Father's Day gift and they never opened it or something like that. Right.
Better that it's in, a dry basement than in a hot attic. Let's look at that.
And you flip it to the back and it tells you a little blurb about the fragrance.
You got it. Yes, very nice. One of my favorite jingles. Makes it easy for you. My other favorite is Windsong, which I'll be doing a review of soon. I can't seem to forget you. Your wing song. Listen to me right now. See, I told you in the next hour that beer kicks in. Your wing song stays on my mind. The commercials ran through the 90s, and that was like very much like that's a carnation forward, like floral amber. And it was still popular into the early to mid 90s.
What's it called?
My mom loved it. Windsong, Prince Machiavelli.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. It's beautiful. One thing Luca Turn and I can agree on is we both think that Windsong is absolutely beautiful. It's just,
there's one here.
Yeah.
Keep talking because I got to find it, but you'll know when I bring it on camera. I'm pretty sure you like this stuff too, actually. Another old drugstore favorite.
I love my drugstore favorites. Love my drugstore classics. Very few people talk about these. They're just bottom shelf. Nobody really. There's no. There's no snobbery about drugstore classics. Like, what kind of snobbery can you create? I love Charlie as well. Ooh la 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 la. That's Charlie.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful fragrance. I mean, for you, if you like your green floral chypras, you can't do wrong with Charlie.
This is like a sunshine. To me, this is sunshine in a bottle. Like when I spray this on, it's a sunny day. This is a sunny day right
Charlie. I have a lot of good memories. I'll smell Charlie and I'll immediately think of her. And I would wear it myself. I think it is like nobody would even think twice. They would just think you were smelling an old fragrance. They wouldn't know whether it was a female's or male's. They just would think it was old. The last analysis of a Azzaro I saw, it was more expensive to produce than a Tom Ford. I believe it. I do. I think they can, Dwayne, go bad. The Stetsons can go bad. I mean, there's a lot about bottles that they're sitting around in places where no fragrance should be sitting around, and then they throw them online to sell them. And some compositions just tend to go bad. They tend to be a lot more vulnerable to the ravages of time. Yes, Charlie and Capucci.
These two are very, very similar. They are so close. They could trade places, and you would not really. They're both citrus, aromatic chypres, both very fundamental, basic. Lots of, that floral treatment. That's the very big bergamot in these.
Chef's kiss.
I think the Capucci's got a little more of the isobutyl quinoline, aka pyrrolone. This is a little more of that. The Charlie doesn't really mess too much with that, but
not really. Yeah, there's not really much in the way of quinolines, at least from what my nose can tell. But what do I know? But I do definitely pick them up in the Capucci.
Yeah, not so much here though. But
no more aldehydes in 2025. not very much of them going on, at least at the level in which they were. The aliphatic aldehydes were really in abundance until at least the 90s. Yeah, you don't really, I'm trying to think of like the last fragrance that has like a ton of aldehydes. I think that Gizeshen used a lot of aldehydes for Marseille, for Comme des Garçons a few years ago. Glien from Établi Blanche uses a lot of aliphatic aldehydes, but you don't really see a lot of it going on lately. No.
I just say pyrrolone in the same sentence because they're different versions. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, pyrrolone is a different version from the original isobutyl quinoline that would be used in that time period. But what is available to most autodidacts who dabble in perfume would be the pyrrolone, which is similar but not exactly the same. Oh, well, he's doing the work for me. Pyrrolone is noticeably softer and more tobacco.
Yeah.
Hardly green like IBQ. Thank you for that information. Thank God for that. Karen is not a fan of the aliphatic aldehydes. I love them. I lavish in them.
Yeah, I just name drop the
different strokes for different folks. Like I'm not going to criticize you. Oh my God, you like Joe Malone and you don't like aliphatic aldehydes. You don't like it, but you like Joe Malone, but you don't like aliphatic aldehydes. What kind of plebeian are you? You don't belong there. You don't belong as a part of our animal menagerie. Bye.
I name both materials even though they're not exactly the same, just because it's like it's kind of like one's a name brand and the other one's just a chemical name. So
yeah. Pyrrolone is a brand name for a different. I'm sure that Algebraius will articulate this more. And there's also another quinoline that I recall from what I own. Actually, I can bring it up here. No, it's not going to come up in Firefox. I was going to open up my spreadsheet, but I have another type of quinoline here that we could talk about. Yeah. Please, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to open this up and see if I can locate my spreadsheet because I don't have that kind of, recall these days. I'm 46. Cut me some slack.
It's kind of like... I am not okay. I'm gonna have to smack this guy. I am not saying that pyrrolone is a brand name of IBQ. I am saying that because one is a brand name, people know it more than they know. Right? So that's why it's like
okay. Settle down, like, everyone.
Sit down.
It's all good.
Sit down.
6-methylquinoline. That's the one that I have in the group of materials that I have. That is a more leathery animalic fecal note, reminiscent of Castoreum or civet. That's a different quinoline. There are different quinolines. There's another one. Pyrrolone, from my notes.
All right. You know what, dude? Just don't talk to me then, okay? That's fine. We don't have to be friends. It's whatever. I'm tired of this. I'm not dealing with people like this today. This is stupid. So... He's finding every possible way he can to try and create an argument here. I don't even know what we're supposed to be arguing about. Okay, I don't understand.
We have civil discussions here. So I mean, the two of you can sort that out elsewhere.
I'm not going to sort it out at all. I don't care. So
well, you don't have to. Pyrrolone is just not a brand name for a quality of IBQ. It's a different quinoline. It's a different type of quinoline from the isobutyl quinoline. Let me look up. It's all good, people. No need to get worked up.
It's a name people recognize more than the other one. There. Do you want me to be really pedantic about it? That's what it is.
Well, I welcome pedantry, actually. So pyrrolone is 6,1-methylpropylquinoline. So that's the difference between the two, and it's often used in place of isobutyl quinoline. So I rest my case. Here comes the gavel. Boom. Let's move on. All right. So we're going to run about 15 more minutes here. We have 23 people who are tuned in. I thank each and every one of you for sticking around for this lively discussion. Lively. 33 people have liked the stream, but we were aiming for 40. Let's try to bring in the likes. You have have the IFF IBQ Simries, IBQ, and the Givaudan IBQ, but that would be major pedantry.
Why are
All
we still
right,
talking about this?
Algebraist. Don't forget to like the stream. I look forward to having you as a guest soon. Okay. All right. So, any other topics here? Any other questions from people who are tuned in? Do you have any other things that you'd like to go over? Any other kind of concerns, complaints? How are you feeling about, this late stage capitalist, late modernity that we're dealing with right now, where everything seems to be topsy turvy? Because it's surely feeling like a roller coaster ride to me. And that's, just in general, not in the case of social media and perfume and talking about perfume on social media. How many inches ooh,
I'm not.
ooh, inches?
Yeah, I am not dignifying those questions that I'm questioning.
Who? What are they talking about? Inches of what? No. This is supposed to be This is a PG rated place. We're not going to talk about that stuff. Be nice.
This is a ABC After School special. That's where we are with this.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. No. Okay. All right. So I think this would be a good time to go over the guests that are coming up in the next few weeks. For the next one, I have Daisy Bow on May 6th. Who, might you ask, is Daisy Bow? You can visit Daisy Bow on Instagram, and she does some really cool stuff over on the West Coast vibes. She is under Je Suis Daisy B. That's Je _ Suis _ the Massachusetts accent is coming out now. Je _ Suis _ Daisy B. And she's a food blogger and an educator of perfume. She's the host of a blog called Perfume Playdate. She's going to be joining me on that date, which is May 6th. May 16th, Rachel is coming back. She will be live with me for our quarterly live stream. May 20th, guess who is going to be here? Is Algebraist, aka Jamal, will be joining us on May 20th. And then the finale, which the date is to be announced, that will be the 20th and final episode of Effluvium with Alex, the Perfume Temple. So this will all come full circle after about 3 years. He was my first guest, and he will be my final guest for the 20th episode and final episode of the season and series. So we have a date as yet decided. It'll probably be June 10th, June 12th. I'm going to aim for that week. So he probably means the size of the Pierre Cardin Singulier bottle. Who has that? Who has Singulier? Do you have Singulier? Who? I do not have a bottle of Singulier. Unless you have a bottle that looks like Pierre Cardin Singulier.
I know I don't have a bottle of that.
Yeah.
So
that's the one that looks kind of like a mesa. It has like this. It's shaped like this, and it goes out.
Yeah. The only Cardin I own is just the 72. Here's a mini of it. I've got a bigger bottle in the cabinet, but here's my little travel bottle. But I have this. This is the only fragrance of his that I own. Just this one, and I've got a bigger one.
Original Thrill, the Pierre Cardin.
Sometimes I get.
Excuse me.
I might as well explain this whole situation. Not that anybody really cares, but all this glass cabinet stuff is kind of like my proper collection, and then all the open shelves are just the frequently used take to work stuff. If I don't have time to think about what I want to wear, I just grab it off of these open shelves, and a lot of the stuff here is half gone or that sort of thing. So you'll have in this shelf, you'll have a lot of minis. Like, for example, my little travel, also vintage, but my little travel bottle of British Sterling will be up on this open shelf. So I'll just grab from up there if I don't want to think about it. I just want to go to work or whatever. And then all the collection is in here. So, and then also this shelf right next to me is where I have like many fragrances of a single line. So all my Allure stuff, all my Terre d'Hermes stuff, the Pradas, the Acqua di Gio, Mont Blanc Legend. So when I have like multiples of a line and I don't want to take up cabinet space, I put them here. And then what you can't see up here, past this shelf, which is, like I said, my easy grab shelf, the stuff up here is all Avon. These top two are just Avons. So
Yeah,
I did wear the arm off.
Avon collection, folks, and he's turned me on to some Avons that I wasn't really fully aware of. And my mother was a big fan of Avon. We had a lot of Avon in the house, and there were some that I just wasn't familiar with until our friend here familiarized me with them, including the lovely Cordovan.
That's Cordovan's really good. Yeah, here we go. This stuff.
That is some very nice stuff. People who
a little bit of history into this is around the time that Avon produced this was when they purchased Parfum Stern. So people don't always realize that Avon did get into proper designers for a while, but they did it behind the scenes by purchasing the distributors and the makers of these designers. So Avon had a lot of cash in the late 70s, early 80s. They were kind of at the apex of their business. So they actually purchased Tiffany and Company. They purchased Parfum Stern, which gave them control over Pierre Cardin, over Oscar de la Renta, over a handful of other brands, Giorgio, Beverly Hills. So a lot of times they would have different mods like any company does, and some would be the Avon fragrances. Some would go off to be the Oscar de la Renta fragrances as a blah, 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 like that. So Cordovan is in the same project that would eventually, almost a decade later, become Giorgio Red for Men. So obviously it was modified very heavily before it became Giorgio, because we're talking 10 years later, but they would reuse and recycle things because they didn't want to spend a lot of money. They didn't have to. So Cordovan is kind of like the great granddaddy of the Giorgio fragrance. And there's actually like a missing link between the two because, which I'll show you that in just a second, but there's a fragrance that kind of bridges them, and it's this fragrance right. Let me find it here. Yeah, okay. So if you smell Cordovan and then you smell this Avon fragrance, which came out in like 88 or 89 called Ever After for Men, you smell this one, and then you smell the Giorgio, which everyone is going to know because this is the more popular, obviously more popular fragrance, but you'll see the progression towards it. It's just like when you smell Green Irish Tweed, and then obviously you smell Cool Water, you smell that clearly they were two different like tinkerings of the same basic structure that Pierre Bourdon did. So I don't know who the perfumers behind any of these were, if we'll ever really know, because Avon was always kind of murky about listing perfumers. But I do know that that was a development arc from Cordovan to this Ever After to eventually this. Now, obviously, some fragrances that were already developed before Avon bought Parfum Stern, they didn't touch those. So Poor Louis and stuff like that were not Avon creations. That was already finished and out on the market in 81 before they bought Parfum Stern. So stuff like that, obviously, Avon didn't. They just distributed that stuff, basically. But a lot of things that came out after 83, 84 were kind of baked in the Avon oven, if you will. And then, like I said, some of them came out as designers, and then some of them came out as Avon products. They also did that whole thing where they would do like actual collabs with other designers, like this Furreau Pour Homme, which came out 85, also an Avon product. This was sold both in stores and in their catalogs as well. So this was both an Avon fragrance and also a designer fragrance. So yeah, they did a lot of that. And eventually by the mid 90s, when they were not doing so well anymore, they began to divest, and they actually, Tiffany was sold to Wertheimer before they ever made a fragrance for Tiffany. Avon never made a fragrance for Tiffany, but Tiffany ended up going to the Wertheimer family, who ended up, Chanel put Jacques Polge, and all the Tiffany fragrances are Jacques Polge creations, but they were going to be Avon fragrances originally, but that never happened. Likewise, they ended up selling Giorgio to Elizabeth Arden. Elizabeth Arden picked up Giorgio. I think all the Parfum Stern stuff went to French fragrances, which eventually also ended up going to Elizabeth Arden, or I think Inter Parfums ended up getting Oscar de la Renta at some point. But yeah, that's the story. So a little bit of deep Avon lore there for you.
Avon deserves a lot more respect than what it's given. I mean, some of the fragrances that were composed for Avon could be paired against a lot of others from the time period. You know,
Yeah.
very good quality for sure.
Yeah, and they had their own internal labs with their own internal perfumers who are all mostly unnamed, unfortunately. I think I've learned eventually at some point that some of them were created by some perfumers who would eventually go on to work for IFF later when Avon shut down their labs. So people like Maureen Brooks were ultimately credited for Black Suede. But I don't think she worked on the original because she would have been like a teenager at that time. So I think she did a revision for it. I think the IFF version that came out in 99, when Avon was moving all their stuff away from themselves to other labs, I think that version is Maureen Brooks' version. The original 1981 that ran from like 80 until about 95-ish, we'll never know who made that one. But their perfume labs actually came from a proper perfumer. Way back in the early 1900s, there was a perfume lab / perfume house called Adolf Getting, or A Getting for short. And there were both A Getting perfumes, and they also made all of Avon stuff because David H. McConnell, who was the founder of Avon and was also dripping with money back at the turn of the 20th century, he kind of bought A Getting. He just kind of said, okay, you're mine now, but let them keep making their own fragrances. But then they also produced all of Avon stuff, and they eventually became Avon's in-house lab. And all the early ones like Cotillion, Trailing Arbutus, all that stuff came from that A Getting lab. And that just evolved through World War II and in the post-war period. But then somewhere in the 70s, early 80s, Avon became this big corporate thing. They're like, let's just outsource everything and shut down our internal stuff and save a bunch of money. And then they brought in Ann Gottlieb and Associates, who you may recall also worked with Calvin Klein.
Calvin Klein, yep.
Mm-hmm. She helped them transition away from their own internal development and all their unfortunately anonymous perfumers who will never get credited to working with the industry names. So a lot of people like Harry Fremont were making fragrances for Avon, but uncredited. I talked to him a little bit on Instagram. He told me that he's made like a half dozen different Avons in the 90s, but you know, just which ones are, I don't know.
He didn't identify which ones.
But that's kind of how they did. It wasn't really until the 2000s that I started seeing names actually put, you know, on the, like Calice Becker was credited for this one in 2003. And, you know, she's the person behind Beyond Paradise and all that stuff.
Yep, yeah.
And all the Lancome, reissues, she did those too.
She did all of the Balmain reformulations in the 90s as well.
Yeah, she did a version of Envers that's pretty good. But yeah, she made this. And this is Avon fragrance from 2003. It's actually really good. Yeah, green leather. You'll probably like this. Very grassy. Yeah. Sour, grassy, green leather. Yeah, Avon does not get enough credit. And
why do you think that's so? Why don't you why do you think that it is just an afterthought to perfume enthusiasts, or they just dismiss it? What is your explanation for that?
Same reason Cody is, same reason Revlon is, same reason Shelton and MEMR, Prince Machiavelli, Charles of the Ritz, all of those drugstore, high street brands, as they would call them in Europe, because they don't really have shopping malls over there, but all of that, you know, five and dime stuff. There's no prestige, there's no clout, there's no respect to any of that. So all the collectors now, you know, we're going back to the whole snob gatekeeper thing, but you don't get any golf claps when you tell people that you're wearing Avon. But you break out a vintage Hermes or a bottle of Creed or something, and everyone's like, oh, like that. And therefore, it's the same reason why everyone keeps and restores vintage Corvettes, but you see like an old Econo box from the 80s, and that's actually more rare to find still on the road, like someone driving an old Civic from 82 or something.
Yeah.
You know, or you see an old AMC Pacer, you're like, wow.
Oh, no one kept those. They threw all those away. The AMC Pacers, I thought they were so cool when I was a kid, and the Gremlin.
Yeah.
I loved those. And I remember when I'm old enough that I remember when I was a very young kid, that there were still a
Mhm.
number of them still on the road, because back then also people kept their cars longer as well. And I just think that they're iconic. So that makes for a good metaphor as well. Like American brand Avon, American, what did AMC stand for? American
General Motors
Motors
Corporation.
Company Corporation. Yes, thank you.
It was
So
Packard, Studebaker, and what was the third one? Oh my god, Hudson. Packard, Studebaker, and Hudson all fused together and formed American Motors.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. I often, I mean, people always want to try to figure out like what's really my deal, because like one week I'm going to be featuring on Instagram, for example. I'll feature some recent releases in niche
Mhm.
perfume or luxury, designer houses. Or just like it's all case by case basis as far as I'm concerned, but everybody's
Mhm.
trying to like figure out what's my deal, what's my, what is it that I focus on, because they want to like kind of figure out who I am, what am I doing. And then
Mhm.
they get thrown off when, in another week I'm doing some of these discontinued drugstore fragrances that have been, that faded into some obscurity, like you said, like the Charles of the Ritz and the
Yeah.
Prince Machiavelli. And people are like, what on earth is this? Like either they remember the brands and they're like, oh, that's never been regarded as haute perfumery, or they
Yeah.
don't even know. They don't even know what to do with it. But I think that they have such relevance and such importance in the fabric of our culture, for being the fragrances that were accessible to the great middle population.
Yeah.
And they are the ones that more resonate with me growing up, because I did not grow up in a wealthy household. And
No.
I grew up smelling a lot of more of these scents than the Chanel's and the Hermes and the Givenchy and the
Yeah.
Guerlain and stuff. So I do make it a point to pay homage to them, and they are part of my collection. I think
Mhm.
that they have just as much a rightful place as well. A lot of people would argue that, but I would beg to differ. I think that there is such beauty in these midline or more affordable fragrances of the time period. So that's my whole soapbox about that. So thank you so much, Derek. Stick around for just a couple minutes. I know that you need to eat, have some
Okay.
food for everybody. Stick around backstage for just a
Mhm.
wee bit. Folks, we're going to sign off here. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to this special Saturday edition of Effluvium. I'm just going to recap again. There's only 3 more of these that are coming up, and then Effluvium on YouTube will be only a thing of the past. It will all be archived, and Effluvium will be moving over as a. Let's zoom in so we show you what you got
Oh,
there.
another drugstore fragrance. This is
California.
by Jacqueline Smith, who was a Charlie's Angel. She launched her
Meh.
own line. Eventually, she sold her line to Dana. So this is a Dana produced bottle. But for a while, she tried to compete with Elizabeth Taylor and Catherine Deneuve and a couple other Cher who tried to launch their own fragrance lines in the 80s and 90s. So this is the Jacqueline Smith, and this is the men's version. There's also women's California as well, but I've always loved this since I was a kid. So, and it's got the cheapest, chintziest cap, but I don't care. It smells
Oh, they
great.
often
So,
did, and that's the charm of a lot of them. Love you too,
yeah.
Ricardo. Love you too, Ricardo. Um, go smoke some Givaudan IBQ and
Barbecue, some Javon
get
barbecue. I'm hungry,
wasted.
so
Why'd the music stop? Oh, because it just wasn't in a loop. I just started the loop there. And thank you so much, Relaxation and Sleep Films. I know who you are. Glad that you could tune in. Great to be connected with you from the BN. But this has been a blast. Glad that you could join me for the 3rd and final season here. We'll have you back for Substack in the near future. And everyone be well. I will see you all soon. Take care of yourselves and keep smelling fantastic. Bye-bye now.